Karen screamed in Eli Cormac's face. "I've seen dead men blink more than he did." He didn't flinch, didn't blink, just rested one hand on the stock of his rifle. Behind him, 9 women, soaked uniforms, hair dripping, eyes locked. No one moved. Karen pointed. She didn't see them, didn't see the snake tattoo glinting under the youngest girl's sleeve. No words, no threats, just that stare. Eli shifted his weight, not back, not forward, just enough to say, "You picked the wrong porch." Cormac didn't stay for peace. He stayed because someone bled on that porch, right there, between the second and third board. People forget how wood remembers, how rain brings things back. Names, promises, cracks you thought were sealed. They say he moved here after the fire, that no one saw him for years. But the truth's quieter than that. He came before it burned, and stayed when no one else did. There's a line etched into the railing, faded now, half covered by moss. Most think it's just wear from the wind, but it was carved with the back edge of a dog tag. Once, then rubbed out, not gone, just waiting. Eli doesn't talk about her, didn't flinch when they called him paranoid, didn't correct them when they said the house was abandoned. It never was, not to him. He keeps one photo on the wall, just inside the door. Old tape, yellowed at the corners, a group shot, uniforms, dust, a date smudged in pen. Every storm, the wind pushes it loose, lets the water sneak in, just enough to blur the smile of the girl on the left. She looked like the one standing behind him now. Same jawline, same stare. He hadn't asked them to come, but when they did, when the first knock landed in the middle of that thunder, he opened the door, didn't speak, just moved aside. 9 of them, no questions, no introductions. He didn't need names, he saw it on their shoulders. Ghost Viper, tattooed like they earned it, like they knew what it cost. Now they stood on his porch like sentinels, rain dripping from their sleeves, hands still, eyes fixed. Karen was yelling something about ordinances, noise complaints, unauthorized gatherings. She didn't see the porch, didn't see where she was standing. Eli did. He always did. He shifted once, subtle, toward the board with the crack, the one she stood on. She was trampling a promise. Didn't even know it. That's why he didn't answer her. Not yet. Not here. Because this wasn't just land. It was memory. And memory doesn't negotiate. She didn't knock, didn't wait. Just marched up the path in a red windbreaker and pointed. Like she owned the dirt she stepped on. Like the porch was trespassing against her. Behind her, 4 members of the HOA clutched clipboards like shields. Karen didn't need theirs. She had her own. Plastic folder, laminate pages, the kind that doesn't bend in the wind. She held it up like a badge, started reading, loud. Each word hit like a cheap gavel. Under Ordinance 12B, gatherings over 5 persons are prohibited, unless cleared by the Homeowners Association. Her voice was steady, sharp, but wrong. 12B was never passed, not officially. Eli knew. He had the only signed copy of the vote that killed it. He didn't say that, didn't move, just slipped his right hand into the inner pocket of his coat, not to draw, just to feel the paper inside, the note she wrote. If anyone ever comes back, don't let them get taken again. He pressed his thumb against it. Let her words weigh his. Karen stepped closer, boots scuffing against wood softened by time. She didn't see the crack, didn't see the edge of the board where names used to be. She planted her foot on it, that line, the one made with a dog tag, once, in the dark. Behind Eli, the women stood still. The youngest adjusted her sleeve. Rain slid past her wrist. Snake ink flashed under gray light. The HOA folks didn't speak. Only Karen. Only her voice slicing through the storm like it had clearance. Then she pointed again, at the porch, at the cabin, at Eli. This, she said, is a residential community, not a resistance camp. No one responded, but the wind did. It caught the edge of the new sign she had hammered into the post. No unauthorized gathering, Ordinance 12B. One nail wasn't flush, so it tapped against the wood every time she raised her voice. Cack, cack, cack. Eli looked at it once, then at her hand, still pointing, not shaking, just certain. Certain she had the law, certain silence meant submission. She didn't see the porch, didn't see the eyes watching, didn't hear the memory knocking under her boots, but Eli did. And he wasn't the only one. You might have felt it too, that quiet anger when someone crosses a line and still thinks they're right. We've all had moments where silence was mistaken for surrender, where walking away didn't feel like peace, just unfinished. If stories like this remind you of something you've lived, you're welcome to stay. We don't rush here, we just don't forget. Karen kept talking, her voice rising, her coat flaring in the wind. She thought Eli hadn't heard her, but he had. He always did. Inside the cabin, behind the old wood stove, there was a folder. Brown, frayed at the edges, held shut by a rubber band that had turned brittle with time. Eli opened it without sound, pulled out a single page. Map of the HOA zoning lines, dated 2015. Stamped in faded ink. HOA zoning, Ordinance 12B, rejected, June 2017. He placed it on the table. Didn't look at it long, didn't need to. He'd kept that file for 8 years, not because he thought this would happen, but because someone once told him, the only power worse than a loud lie is a quiet one written down. Outside, Karen nailed her second sign, deeper this time. Her hammer slipped once. She cursed. The HOA clipboard team flinched but said nothing. Across the street, Mr. Baird stood by his mailbox. Rain on his glasses, cap pulled too low. He squinted at the new sign, muttered to himself, "Didn't we take that thing down back in 17, after the vote?" Nobody answered him. Nobody cared, except Eli. He turned slightly, just enough to meet the old man's eyes, and nodded. Once. Back on the porch, the youngest of the 9 women stepped forward. No signal, no glance from Eli, just instinct. She walked to the far end of the cabin and wiped her sleeve across an old wooden placard, half covered in algae. No one noticed at first, until the grain caught the light, until the rain exposed what dust had hidden. Community Shelter, certified 2014. The letters were still there, stamped, filed, unrevoked. Karen didn't see it. She didn't even know it existed. To her, this was just a shed, a symbol of disorder, of refusal. But legally, it wasn't a gathering spot. It was a registered emergency shelter, cleared years before she'd ever moved into the subdivision. And Eli? He hadn't brought that up. Not yet. He just watched the water roll off the edge of the roof, watched her sign rattle with the wind, let her keep going, let her believe she'd planted a flag. But beneath her feet, the foundation she was standing on was already working against her. The sign swayed again. Cack, cack. Karen turned, face wet, voice sharper now, because silence to her felt like defiance. She raised the folder higher. "Under Ordinance 12B, this is an illegal assembly," she snapped. "The HOA board will enforce that, starting now." No one moved, not even the board behind her, just pens, no longer writing. Eli didn't answer, didn't shift. He looked past her, toward the second row of the porch, toward a girl with a broken bootlace. Her hair was plastered to her cheek, but her stance was exact, deliberate. Then Eli spoke, software clear. "Ma'am, could you repeat that?" Louder this time. It wasn't loud, but it cut through the rain. Karen bristled, lifted her chin, and shouted, "Ordinance 12B prohibits gatherings over 5 people unless authorized by HOA." The words echoed, once, then again. Off the wet wood, the window glass, the hill beyond. Behind Eli, the girl moved, 1 step forward, no words. She reached into her jacket, pulled out a waterproof sleeve. Inside, an old scan, yellowed, official. She handed it to the nearest board member. Didn't look at Karen, didn't need to. The man adjusted his glasses, squinted, mouth opened, then froze. Stamped on the top, "Designated Safe Point, registered 2009, Ordinance 12B exempt." Below that, a signature, not typed. Ink pen, cursive. Someone behind Karen whispered, "Wait, isn't that your dad's signature?" She turned, too fast, too late. The board member turned the paper toward her. Didn't speak. Didn't need to. Karen's face shifted from anger to calculation to something that cracked. The wind hit again. This time, it slapped the wooden sign against the cabin wall, hard. A piece of chipped paint gave way, and underneath, in faded gray letters, just visible now, designated safe point, registered 2009. Everything she'd cited to shut them down was carved into the house, filed in paper, signed by her own family. She'd weaponized a rule that had once been meant to protect, and now it turned. On her. Eli didn't smile, didn't move, but he looked at the girl, her boots soaked, her eyes steady. That step she'd taken, it landed right on the mark Eli had burned into the porch weeks ago. She didn't know that, but he did. And now, so did everyone else. Karen's voice cracked. The page in her hand trembled, just slightly. Rain kept falling, but the air felt louder now. She pointed at the porch, at Eli, at the women standing silent behind him. "This is a violation of our neighborhood rules, and I will not..." Eli finally spoke, not loud, not rushed. "You missed page 7, he said. "Most people do." Karen froze. The HOA board looked at each other, unsure, unmoving. Eli stepped forward, one step, then reached behind the screen door. He pulled out an old folder, the kind stitched at the corners, faded blue, torn spine, set it down on the makeshift check-in table, right on top of the clipboard they had used just yesterday. The folder opened with a soft crack. Inside, paper that had turned yellow, edges soft with time. The top page read, HOA Bylaws Addendum, Emergency Protocols, ratified July 2009. Below it, a single name, signed, same handwriting as the ordinance Karen had screamed about, her father's, and there, on the bottom of the page, Section 12B, Permanent Exemption for Certified Survivor Zones. Karen stared, mouth open, but no sound. Then, a voice. Quiet. One of the women stepped forward. She didn't speak to Karen. She turned to the board, rolled up her sleeve. Tattoo ink, washed in rain, caught the light. Ordinance 12B, Survivor Zone. She said, it was signed after the blackout. That's why she never saw it. And that's when the room, if it could be called that, shifted. One board member let go of their pen. Another leaned away from Karen. She looked around. No more eyes meeting hers. No backup, no applause, only Eli. Walking back to the porch, sitting down. Same chair, same angle. The folder stayed on the table, right beside the fresh coffee stain from earlier that morning. One detail landed harder than the rest. The corner of the document, still damp with rain, lined up with the same spot the young deputy had knelt on the night before, to sign the first notice. Nobody spoke again. Karen didn't move, not for a long time. She had brought a ruler. He brought the memory, and every face turned, even hers. No one moved, no one clapped, but everyone understood. Karen stood still, wet paper wilting in her hand. Her voice, once sharp enough to cut glass, was gone. The board packed slowly. No eye contact, no handshakes. Eli didn't say a word, didn't even look her way. He rose, walked to the porch beam, and knelt. Rain began again. Not hard, just enough to wash the dust from the old wooden sign. He wiped it clean with the sleeve of his jacket, took out 3 nails and the same hammer his brother once used before the flood. The wood creaked, then settled. Words reappeared. Welcome, if you stay kind. Behind him, the youngest ghost viper walked past Karen, didn't flinch, didn't glance. She picked up the fallen chair, set it upright, then turned, and disappeared into the house without a sound. Karen watched her go, still standing in the rain, hands now empty, and just then, a dog, old and muddy, the one she once called a threat, wandered from behind the tool shed, sniffed the edge of Eli's boot, sat down, stayed. No one told it to. It just knew. The others followed, one by one. HOA members walking back to their cars, papers folded, umbrellas up, heads low. No farewell, no victory speech. Just the sound of a screen door swinging closed behind Eli as he returned inside. The porch light flickered once, held, then dimmed. Karen didn't leave right away. She stood there, like a mistake that hadn't found where to sit. Nobody asked her to move. Nobody needed to. That part was already over. And later, when the wind picked up and the mud dried, the only thing left on the porch was a single boot print, half-washed, pointing inward. The rain had taken the rest. The porch never got fixed. One plank still creaks, right near the step where she stood. Eli never replaced it. Some things aren't broken, they just remember. The dog still comes back every dusk. Same spot, same silence. On the window frame, the wind plays with a corner of the old photo. It flutters, but never falls. Inside, there's a drawer, second from the left, where the map still lies, creased, faded, but signed. Nobody asks about it. They just lower their voice when passing the house. Not out of fear, but because some ground deserves quiet. He never raised his voice, not once, but he raised the cost of stepping wrong. That's the kind of justice you don't see on headlines, the kind that waits, watches, and lands exactly once. So clean you hear it only after. Because some people don't fight to teach a lesson. They wait for silence to do it.